Oh, 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 so curious. Oh, I love that. I got a real good cringe from Rolan over there. It's oh so curious. It's a new Sunday. It is a wonderful day in a world where we are being inundated with new Disney properties. Too many if you ask me. Wow, it was D23 this weekend, and there's literally too much to get to. We'll talk about a lot of it. There's a lot of other content. There's the Lord of the Rings stuff, the Game of Thrones stuff. We're covering it all. We're talking about the issues surrounding pop culture and entertainment. I'm Andrew Frankel, and joining me today, I've got Mr. Rolan Underground. Rolan, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you?
You know, I'm sleepy. Maybe I drank too much last night. Who knows? Is this a hangover? We'll find out. But it's I'm happy to be here. I'm certainly pumped and energized and singing and happy.
I love that
Uh, are
optimism.
are you singing and happy today?
I'm singing and happy in my own way, and my own way is deep inside where I'll hide it and I won't release it for, a year or two.
Not a song to be heard over there on the East Coast, unless Dan. Dan, are you gonna sing for us today? Are you feeling
I
good?
don't. No,
No.
I don't think I feel like singing today.
Okay.
Although I'm
Well,
looking at your blackheads there. I'm like, you did you get enough sleep? How are you
Jeez.
feeling?
the circles
My
you mean?
gosh.
Yeah. No, I've had these. These are just sort of part of my personality.
Okay,
They
just
that
making
is
sure.
my visage. That is what I am.
Yeah,
I'm a
I put
raccoon.
makeup on mine because I'm a
Oh, do
professional.
you? Yeah. I'm just. Yeah, I might get them tattooed even darker at a certain point in my life, just so that people stop asking me about them.
Yeah. Dedicated to like the Tim Burton cause.
Yeah. I'm gonna call them up and tell them like, "Hey, I got this going on. If you want to use it,
Yeah.
you know, got to take care of that Johnny Depp character though."
Yeah.
So that's what's going on with me. How's everything else in your corner of the world? Are you excited about anything in particular with like the new releases? Is there anything worth talking about?
With so much content, you gotta like some of it. It's there's no way they can just release all this stuff and you can't like, all right, that's interesting. For me, I think it's a Werewolf by Night. It's
What
like
is that?
it's I first they're going like with this whole like 40s aspect of it, which I think will be really interesting. We're gonna get the first appearance of Man Thing, which is like Swamp Thing, but it's different. Not
What
really, 'cause it's
is
the
this
same thing.
connected to anything? Is it Marvel? Is it
It's yeah,
like
it's like MCU,
okay.
and it's like a little Halloween special that they're doing. And I think it's just like basically, we got a werewolf and then we got some monster hunters, and they're just gonna we'll see. They gave a teaser, but you don't really see too much of it, which I
Hmm.
like. I want them to keep that, you know.
Yeah, it's the thing I liked about it the most, and we can talk about it a little bit later when we talk about D23 in detail. But I like that they had this special Marvel presentation logo thing that looked very different from their usual Marvel Studios bumper graphic that they use. So
Hmm.
that was interesting. It starts off different. It's not. So I don't know if this is like their new version of a one shot. Like I think they stopped doing one shots, which were like basically short films. So maybe now these specials are gonna be sort of like that one off kind of a thing. They also have the
Is
Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which they didn't talk about at all at D23. So I don't know what's going on with that, but
is
yeah,
that
we'll
the
see.
stage of consumerism we've entered where like all they have to do is show us a logo and we get excited? Like the movie doesn't even have to be good. We just go, "Oh, they're making that?" And now we're on the edge of
That's
our seat for the next, 6
yeah.
months until we actually get to go pay to see it and then it's like, "Boy, that logo is cool."
I
That's
don't
their
know.
forte, it seems like. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember seeing like, well, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and say yes. That's my hot
Yes.
take.
Yeah,
Hot take.
Disney's got a logo fetish. That's I think that's well established.
Not
The
only
fact
do
that
they
they
have one, but they're like I mean when you talk about
it's
fetish,
sort
it's
of
like
started with Marvel, but now it's like it's well, I don't know if it starts with
Yeah.
Marvel because it's you watch a move Fast and Furious movie, right? Like you watch a trailer for Fast and Furious, they give you the movie trailer, the movie logo, but
Yeah.
they don't put the Universal logo on top of it. But everything Disney does is Disney's Pinocchio, or it's
Yeah.
Pixar and Disney's Inside Out, for example.
Yeah, it's
Or
like John
Marvel
Carpenter.
Studios Thor, like, it's like they'd love to stick their. It's all about branding. That's what it is. So
Yeah.
It's yeah, but like, that's all we got with like the timeline at Comic-Con of like all the different Marvel things, and it's like, and there are some gaps, and all they've done is like they've created slightly different logos for the Avengers, and it's like that's enough for our imagination
I
to
know, but that's always been the thing. I remember like Thor Ragnarok when it came out, the first logo we ever had was like super serious. And then when you finally get to the final, it's like it's bright and colorful and it's all this.
Yeah, I'm just saying like the marketing has taken on a life of its own. It's become like we get excited for the marketing at this point. We will talk about like basically all of the exciting stuff because there's too much to cover from everything in D23, but in the meantime, let's just tell you what's going on the show today. Dan, give us a rundown.
Okay. Well, we're gonna start as we usually do with quick hits, weekly movie news. Let's see what happened. There's a lot happening in the world of movies. Marvel at D23, as we were just hinting at, we're gonna review all the stuff they talked about at that panel. Rings of Power episode 3. So Catriona and Mags reviewed that. We'll take a look at that as well. Festival ovations. We're gonna talk about, are they overblown? Are they actually, worth paying attention to? And then we're gonna finish with Rolan Underground. Rolan Underground's got a birthday special for us this week, so we'll take a look at that as well.
Well, that's all pretty good. While we're getting started here, shall we talk about the She-Hulk stuff?
We could, but I was actually. Let me see. You know what? Did we? Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? Why not? I'm sorry. I confused myself. I was looking at the internal rundown and I was like, are we supposed to do that first, or are we supposed to talk about Pinocchio? I guess it doesn't matter,
Not
but
really.
I'm
does
just
it
here for the
matter?
ride.
I don't know. We can start with She-Hulk. Let's start there. Yeah. That seems to be what I wrote down, so it's on me.
I'm just going by the
We
She-Hulk.
wrongly shifted. We're getting back in track. Now we're talking about She-Hulk and that mess. But that's success.
Yeah.
Depends on how you look at it.
I gotta be honest with you guys. It's the last episode was so bad that I was like, they can only go up from here. And yeah, it wasn't as bad as last week, but like the graphic says, please make it stop. I am in agony, as that Key and Peele sketch would say. Um, uh, the episode was, like I said, a step up from the one before it, but we've got things like Titania is suing She-Hulk, or what's her character name, Jen Walters, for copyright infringement because she
What?
trademarked the She-Hulk name first to use as her fashion line, and she's a super powered influencer. And I'm like,
Okay. No, I mean, I'm literally like, my skin is crawling right now because of how gross all of that is. The self-awareness of that, the uselessness of trying to like make it relevant that way is so disgusting to me. I mean, it's literally repulsive.
there's some irony in what you just said too, right? The usefulness of trying to make it relevant. It's like, I don't know, would you call it an oxymoron? Whatever you wanna.
I don't know. It's just like, what does that do? She's an influencer? She has a fashion line? So now She-Hulk is a Kardashian who twerks with Megan the Stallion? I'm not happy about it. It's just, ugh. Oh my
I mean,
God.
and then they've
look at
almost
this
like made a
stuff.
mockery of Wong. It's. I mean, they had Donnie Blaze in this, which again, cameos, hint, Easter eggs galore. But I honestly don't know. I mean, well, then she's dating, which was hinted at in the trailers before all of this started. But like, you look at the kind of stuff that's happening here, and honestly, I don't know where the show is going. That's the biggest thing for me. It's like we are 4 episodes in, and even episodic television, right? Like you watch a 26 episode season of The X-Files, you would have the first couple episodes really get you going on what the season arc was, and then they would do Monster of the Week episodes, and then maybe here and there they would have like a long-term arc episode basically, and then the mid-season finale and premiere would happen, and then you would
How
wrap up
many
the season arc at the end. This
how
show
many
has
episodes
not
do they
hinted at
have?
what the big story is yet, and I'm
What's the
worried about
plan for
that.
the number of episodes in this season?
I think
There's
it's still
9.
6. Oh, is it 9?
There's 9, yeah.
9? And so this was episode 4?
4. 4, yeah.
And okay, so we're halfway through about, and we have no idea where it's going.
Right. I mean,
So let me ask
we've
you
got
guys
like
this.
hints of a conflict, but 4 episodes in, I'm like, I don't care if the episodes are 20 minutes or 50 minutes apiece. 4 episodes into a show, you should know exactly where this thing is headed. Otherwise, you've got
Yeah.
problems. Like it's a writing problem, like beyond anything else. I mean,
This show has
forget the
plenty
bad
its
CGI.
good share of writing problems. Roland, what were you gonna ask?
I just I've been seeing a lot of things on like Twitter and stuff like that saying how people were so upset about the the Megan Thee Stallion thing and like her twerking and being dumb and silly and stuff like that. So what do you guys say of the I don't know, maybe the contradiction of like, oh, if we saw Deadpool do this, you wouldn't have this much hate that's going around. If we had like this other kind of
Are people saying that
goofy
kind of
character.
stuff?
Yeah, people were
Because
saying so.
here, let me be super clear. I think it's cheap when Deadpool does it. I think it's dumb. The useless cameos, the pandering. It happened in Pinocchio too, where they reference Chris Pine in Pinocchio. Like what
Oh,
you've done is
because his last name is Pine and Pinocchio is made of pine wood. Oh my God.
what you've
That's lazy.
done is you've rendered your movie irrelevant as soon as people forget who Chris Pine is. So whereas Pinocchio, the animated movie, will be relevant probably
Timeless.
forever,
Yeah.
you have now tarnished it with pop culture, and you have made it time full. It's not timeless.
Right.
That is a
it's-
great point, and I have thought about
Yeah.
that with Ryan Reynolds. That we love him to death, and he makes all these awesome, almost inside jokes,
Yeah.
because he's mentioning pop culture and '80s things. But you fast forward 20 years, and these movies
Who's
that
gonna
we're
care?
thinking are timeless are going to be so out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing: when you mention the whole fourth wall breaks and like the twerking and all that stuff, I see Deadpool doing that. I mean, okay, so there's 2 Deadpool movies, and you go back and you watch those. Most of the fourth wall breaks, not every single one of them, but the vast majority of them, they're done well. They're well written. Because the thing is, a good fourth wall break is witty, it's well acted, it's well timed, it's well placed.
And also
In this
Ryan
show,
Reynolds
the
was well
writing is
cast
so
in that.
bad.
He does that. He does fourth wall stuff. Even his TikTok stuff, like the thing he did with Will Ferrell. He's mastered that. It's part of his personality, to be self-aware. Even as early as Van Wilder, he was always commenting on the situation he was in as a form of comedy, and it worked. That's who he is. So
I guess the point I'm trying to make, and to get away from Ryan Reynolds, because
Yeah.
this is about She-Hulk. Would you say that whenever they're self-aware and they're not afraid to be dumb and goofy, does that completely takes away any seriousness in the writing for you guys? The moment they
Well-
start making silly jokes like that.
I think the thing about this show is that they said from the outset that we're not going to take it too seriously, but they haven't been consistent. And so some of their social messaging is really like, we're not sure if we're supposed to be laughing at that because it's so laughably written. And then the humor doesn't land because it's like, well, you were just scolding us for, the way society is. So are we now supposed to laugh at this? Like, it's the character's sense of humor, the writer's sense of humor is inconsistent, and it's not communicating itself well. Whereas with Deadpool, the reason it works is because it's a movie. It's written to be consistent from start to finish, and it's all, that is the point, is that it's a self-aware character. Here, yes, She-Hulk has a history of being self-aware and doing the fourth wall breaks, but I think they've gotten caught up in the trends of social progress and, you know,
It-
pop culture trends to just,
yeah, so to yeah, it's part of it is that. So part of it is this show is trying to do way too much with way too little time, and then whenever they try to tackle like social issues, like bringing up the whole idea of how people are like, oh, now everybody, like, why do they have all these female superheroes and where are the guys at and all that stuff. But the point is, when they bring up those kind of elements, the way it's written is like preaching and talking down to your audience rather than bringing it up as and naturally within the story, and then maybe trying to make a point through the story itself rather than a character just
yeah.
saying it in
You know what the
dialogue
tone of
and
this
it,
show is? The
yeah.
tone of this show is a librarian who's telling you to shut up and then is trying to crack a joke with you so that you like her.
Yeah, right. And then the other part of it is, like you said, Roland, like, is it like, would we be having the same reaction when when Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool is doing like twerking or whatever? the the problem that I've had, the biggest reason why I don't like some of those elements, is there's so much lacking with the fundamentals of the show that when they start doing these extraneous things that are, you're like, those should be the, like, the sprinkles on top of the ice cream or the cherry on top of a cake kind of moments that only add to the fun and the gloriously well executed rest of the show or movie. In this case, you're like, everything else like falls so short, from the writing of the dialogue to the way the whole thing is paced to how overstuffed it is with cameos that almost seemingly purposely detract away from the main character. The fact that we don't get enough character development from the main, for She-Hulk and Jen Walters, not to mention screen time. When those things are lacking so much, those like fourth wall breaks and those, like, those kind of cameo moments that will usually feel like, oh, I'm getting all the good stuff, and now this is like some extra bonus that I can get. Here it feels like, guys, get the basics right first, then worry about this. Like
Yeah.
so for me, like, that's the perception of it, and it's for better or worse. Like I said, if those moments were tacked onto a better written, more well executed show, it wouldn't feel as bad as it does here because the rest of the show is so bad.
Okay.
I think that nails it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, She-Hulk, I'm going to tell you, stop or, rewrite it or just, I don't know. I'm not interested. I jumped off after episode 1. If for some reason you think that they're doing a great job, let us know. We'll see what you have to say, but you better do a good job trying to convince us. Comment your thoughts, share and subscribe, and join us in our movie fan community. We're watching everything. We're talking about it all. Let's move on to that next thing. Against my better judgment, I suppose, I decided to watch Pinocchio.
Wow, a Tom Hanks movie. That's
Yeah,
brave of you.
yeah. Full disclosure, I am not a Tom Hanks fan, even remotely. If you don't know that by now, he was not the most objectionable part of this movie. He did a good job embodying Geppetto and doing a little bit of extra storytelling when it comes to like the death of his son. I thought that was pretty good. He does not have a real Italian accent, which is heavily contrasted against a character who bursts in through the door with a real over-the-top Italian accent. So that was a little annoying. But the thing is, bottom line, they did this shot for shot, for the most part, recreation of the animated movie. And they took out some of the best songs. As hard as they tried to make some things look exactly like the movie, they went a completely different direction with the Blue Fairy. Beautiful singer, beautiful voice, but it does sort of make you wonder, like, what is the mission here? Are you trying to do everything shot for shot, or are you trying to rewrite things and make it totally different? And then they've added characters who, were never in Pinocchio, songs that were never in Pinocchio. lessons that were never in Pinocchio. It's weird. And as I mentioned before, some of the pop culture references like Chris Pine really are going to date this within a couple of years. I wasn't I wasn't repulsed because Pinocchio is a great story, and it's something, it's about self-actualization. It's a story that a lot of people need to hear, and I think that's why we're seeing so many new iterations of it, and why it keeps coming back. We had the live action dub a long time ago, like 10, 15 years ago, the Italian one. Then we had this one. We had the 1930s one. We're going to get the Guillermo del Toro one in a
I'm looking forward to
month.
that one. Yeah.
That one? Yeah.
It's different. I actually, so a follow-up question. So you mentioned they have stuff in here. This is something that comes up a lot when you see these kind of like, like Disney is specifically remaking a animated movie that they did a long time ago. Usually
Yeah.
they try to like, stick to like, for example, the original soundtrack, and they maybe do re-recordings with new artists and whatever. But so the question that I had, and you hinted at it, when a lot of times people are like stick to the original, make it a shot for shot remake, but then sometimes when that happens, people then argue, well, they did the shot for shot remake, but why bother if the original is already there? Shouldn't they be like
Yeah.
innovating on building on top of the original? So like obviously, I mean, the question I'm trying to ask is it should movie filmmakers try to uh, achieve a balance between those two things, or go one way or the other? And then how does that apply to this movie? Did they try to balance those things
I
out,
was
like
thinking
adding
about
new on
this.
top
I
of the
was
old?
thinking about this through the
Yeah.
movie, and you know, this whole thing felt a lot more like a Disneyland exhibit, like one of the storybook rides, and Tom Hanks and all of the characters, they don't come across as the cartoon characters. They come across more as the performers you would see at Disneyland. And the sets look so much like the animated sets that it sort of feels more like Disneyland. And so it's not really about, I don't think there's any value to shot for shot remakes at all. I don't think these accomplish anything. This is, I think, what this could be in our world. The place for this is for something like the VR Disneyland, or VR exhibits at Disneyland, where you can really explore all of the elements of Pinocchio, where you could interact with Pinocchio in 3D and see all of the sets. But this, all of the charm of that, this is like Kingdom Hearts. That's what it was exciting about that game. You could walk around in the world, and you get some more depth in this, but they don't really add anything to the story. In
So
fact, a
another,
lot of what they did took away from the story.
now the other follow-up question to that would be, they ended up, it seems like, going with the Pinocchio character being almost entirely animated. I don't know if there was any live action puppetry involved at all. So, and this is something that's been a trend with Disney live action remakes. Like The Lion King was basically an animated movie, but it was made to look like it was a live action, like so real. So I'm like, what is the utility of doing a live action remake if you're not going to maximize the tools of a live action film, and you're just going to like make something that's more or less at least half, if not the majority of it, is animated anyway? Like this is a trend, and
Well,
I
you know
don't see
what?
the utility. It's the same thing as like building on top of the original. But like
Yeah,
here, if you're gonna animate it anyway, and it's 3D animation versus the 2D animation, why not then just make it like a Pixar movie? Like, why make it live
yeah.
action at all?
I mean, it was, some of the visual effects were pretty, especially like when the blue fairy comes through the window and it's like there's just magic, concentrated Disney magic in beams. Like that looked pretty cool. Um, and so there's even honestly some of the set design in this, and like there's a wall of cuckoo clocks, and they really enjoyed putting Disney cameos in the cuckoo clocks in that scene, and like a lot just went into that. Um, but this is the culture we're in. It's cameos and Easter eggs, and that's pretty much all this added. And Pinocchio as a story about, you know, finding out who you are and having a conscience and living a moral life, and like all of that sort of goes out the window. And it's like, yeah, we talked about Keegan-Michael Key is the Fox.
Oh, is he really?
He is, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is Jiminy Cricket.
By the way, I wanted to touch upon this briefly. You
Hmm.
mentioned that you auditioned for a role in this movie.
Really? Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it up because I think it's I don't know, I don't think it taints or your review in any sense of speaking, but tell us
Unless it was bitterness.
how close were you to getting a role in this film?
I don't think I was that close. I audition for things constantly, and when it's a Disney remake like this, almost always they are going to go with a celebrity to do the voice, which they ended up doing, for every character. I got the audition sometime in 2020 for Jiminy Cricket, and I went about it trying to do a perfect sound-alike to the original. And the original guy was the original singer of When You Wish Upon a Star. I ended up singing it in his style of singing. I know I did a good job. Like, I still have the audition somewhere. And now watching the movie, I was, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, it just sort of ended up turning into a lot of falsetto with like a southern accent. And Jiminy Cricket didn't have a southern accent. He had a transatlantic, proper speaking voice of the 1940s. But I don't know. The character was there. I just,
So I'm guessing
I
you
tried not
didn't
to think about it.
feel particularly slighted considering the end product as a whole wasn't all that enjoyable.
It wasn't unenjoyable. Pinocchio is always a good story. It's always a good movie. In fact, even watching it, I was like, yeah, I feel good after this. I still enjoyed it. It just didn't add anything. It wasn't novel. It wasn't groundbreaking. It was like, yeah, I could have watched the original. And I do think there's more depth in the original.
And the last question I would ask is, do you think so this movie dropped on Disney Plus. This was, I think, at one point meant to be a theatrical release. Obviously, if you go by the people they cast in this film, it wasn't, like they decided to make it straight for Disney Plus. When you cast Tom Hanks in your movie, I mean, he's done streaming films, and like you said, the voices like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and so on and so forth. Do you think it was the right decision to drop this on Disney Plus? Do you think ultimately there was some sort of business decision there saying like this movie may not do very well in theaters, or do you think this could have done well in theaters? I mean, there's not a lot in theaters right now, so all things considered, maybe it could have made a good amount of money.
I think given the strategy that Disney's doing, what they should do with stuff like this is limited releases. They should do what like Gray Man did with Netflix, and that's put it out in theaters for 2 weeks, and at least then you make some of the money from the box office, and then once the word gets out that it's a pointless, worthless, unenjoyable, bomb, then people can watch it on Disney Plus.
Fair enough. Okay. Oh, would you recommend somebody watch this or take a pass?
No.
Okay.
No,
All
it's
right.
pointless. But if you disagree or if you agree, let us know in the comments. Talk to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, mostly YouTube. That's what we're trying to do. So be our friend and engage with us, because sometimes we engage back. By the way, did we have a comment of the week this week?
Oh no, we're not doing those.
No? Okay.
We didn't have the time on the show, honestly. It wasn't.
That's okay.
And nothing
just
stuck
wanted to
out to
know.
me. So
That's all right. Well, let's move on and see some of them quick hits.
all right, time for some quick hits. Here's what went down this week in the world of movies, TV, streaming, and all that jazz. So, let's start off with some news on kids' TV. So, Teletubbies is back, baby. Teletubbies is coming back, narrated by Titus Burgess. It's going to be on Netflix this time. I grew up watching the Teletubbies on BBC and later on VHS tapes. I love, Tinky Winky, Tipsy, Lala, and Po, all those guys. Can't wait for them to be back on my television screen. Speaking of British news, of course, this week we saw the news that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II passed away at the age of 96, ending her 70-year reign, the longest reigning monarch in the history of the UK. Her son, King Charles III, now takes over. Best of luck to the royal family, and our condolences to the entirety of the UK and the Commonwealth. Batgirl shelving was called blown out of proportion by the press by Warner Brothers Discovery CFO Gunnar Weinsfeld this week. Did you guys think that was blown out of proportion, or pretty big deal? I mean, I personally think they made the right business decision there. So this weekend is D23 weekend, and of course they're announcing a lot of new things. Amongst them, we got our first look at the new live action The Little Mermaid, featuring Halle Berry in the titular role. The movie comes out in 2023, May of 2023 that is, and we got our first look at her in action in that teaser trailer. So speaking of D23 announcements, here's one that we didn't get, and that's the casting announcement for Fantastic Four. Kevin Feige was on stage. He brought on Matt Shakman, making it official that he is now the director of the movie, something that a lot of people already knew. It had leaked online, but we did not get any casting announcements. They were like, hey, we're going to feature it next year at the event, and maybe then we'll get it. I think it makes sense. They just hired a director. He probably wants to have some say in the casting process, and so we'll see how that plays out. But that's it for Quick Hits this week. Be sure to join us every Sunday on Also Curious at 5 p.m. Eastern for new episodes on all of that good stuff.
There was so much news at D23 telling us everything happening with Marvel in the next year. I'm exhausted just from the list of things that came out. But
yeah, there's a barrage of logos and some trailers. But yeah.
A lot of logos and trailers.
Logos and trailers.
A logos appeal for those of you who studied rhetoric in college like me. What's good? What are we supposed to be excited for?
I don't know, Roland. Were you following? I know you're.
I was getting text notifications all the time about it. I was almost getting anxiety from it. Honestly, it was bad because we were talking about it in the group chat. I was getting stuff from like Twitter itself and all this. So there's a lot.
There's like a family emergency. The number of texts. It's like Disney. Chill out.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are interesting. I don't want to say that they're bad right off the gate, because it might not be, and it's just bad advertising, because that does happen. Then again, sometimes you get really good advertising and it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
I guess if we're naming favorites already, we're going ahead and saying it.
I pretty much know what you're gonna say, right? It's no, go ahead. You say it.
No, you say it. Dan, what's yours?
Somebody
you say it, and then I'll say it, and then we'll be.
Well, I'm pretty sure mine is not the same as yours. I think the best thing I saw was Secret Invasion, but I know what yours is probably going to be, so I was just gonna like guess, but go ahead.
What is it? Read my mind.
Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Werewolf by Night and Secret Invasion. Okay. I have no idea what these things are. Again, I'm not somebody who's super invested in the MCU, besides being somebody who reviews the movies here and there. But it's like, I'd be excited if who is that?
That's a poster for Werewolf by Night.
Is that Rami Malek? Who is that?
No, it's
Who is
not.
that actor,
It's his name is. Oh gosh, what's his name?
We don't even know.
It's not even in the tweet anywhere. Well, they have Man-Thing in there. I saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know. My eyes aren't so good.
Gail Garcia Bernal.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So these are like we're now nitpicking and saying like these are the little minor characters that people read in a comic book once in the 1970s and forgot about, and now they get 2.5 hours of my time and $15 of my money, and is I don't know. There's so much, and I don't know any of these people, and none of them stand for anything particularly hopeful. I would love a superhero to give me hope. But what's the story with Werewolf by Night? Why are you excited by this?
I've always been a fan of werewolves. As a kid, I used to go werewolf hunting with my cousin in the woods, but there was
That's
coyotes,
interesting.
so we got
Did you get
scared.
any?
No, there was just coyotes, and it was too scary. So we went back inside. But I've always been interested in them, and I think they're cool. And I watched all the Universal ones, and then I don't know. There's just always been an appeal, and I've always been interested by Werewolf by Night because I always thought it had a really cool design, interesting kind of concept. The main character's name is Jack Russell. If it kind of shows you like what's the vibe, you know. Um, so it's interesting. Right now, what it is basically he gets I don't know captured by some monster hunters, and it's a whole chase thing,
Like
and
the
it's in
sticks that they have,
thriller.
like the stun sticks, it feels like those like the maybe the DODC guys, like the Department of Damage Control. Like there's a scene of the
Yeah,
show, right? Like where it's taking people. Oh, there was a severed arm. I'm like, this is black and white. They're hiding some of the gore, which
yeah,
this was a lot more violent than I expected something that's going to go on Disney Plus to be. That was the
yeah.
surprising thing to me. But
Well,
Chocolate
Disney
syrup
seems to have
everywhere.
sort of thrown out the family-friendly all the time brand, which interesting move being, Disney.
Disney.
But yeah, let's see how this plays out for them. It looks cool. I like when people do black and white stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Andrew,
where
is
they
there
don't have
something
to
that was catching your eye, even just like a little bit?
from
oh,
D
there's
from
blood splatter
D23.
here. Oof.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I mean, I the thing about the barrage of content really says to me that Disney's really trying to win back its audience because they've been in hot water about a lot of different things lately, and they are, like we've just seen, like we just said, they're defying their brand, um, just in an effort to see how many people they can get over to Disney Plus.
Mhm.
And really, what this says to me is it communicates an awful lot of insecurity on Disney's part, saying we don't know who we are anymore. What do you want? What do you want? Tell us, please tell us
Interesting.
what you want.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
this is Michael Giacchino's first directorial effort. I mean, on this scale, I think he's done like one or two things before, but he's obviously known as a composer. Like, he composed music for many movies, including, well, probably not his best work, but like Rogue One, a Star Wars project, and then he did like some of the Star Trek movies. I think he did the Batman. But you don't think of him like a director, but he's directed this, and he said that this one is taking influences from like these 30s and 40s horror sort of vibe. That's what they're going for. And
Yeah.
then, and they're treating this with this whole new, like, it's not your traditional Marvel Studios logo special presentation thing. And you can tell, I think this is innovative and maybe in a good way, at least based on the
Yeah,
trailer.
I mean,
Could be terrible to
here's
watch,
the
but
thing.
yeah.
It looks very cool. It looks very cool. I just this is again, it's another Stranger Things type of thing where we've stylized it to look exactly like one of those things, and yet if it doesn't deliver on the essence, on the feeling, and even the messaging, if it just looks like it, all we've got really is a new movie, just like every other movie, with a different Instagram filter, a different font.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what it becomes. I mean, it's different than anything that they've put out. So I guess we'll see. But there's other stuff to talk about. Like my favorite thing that they put out was let me
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Yeah, let me pull this up.
What is? I don't know anything about that. What is Secret Invasion?
Roland, as far as the comic book origins, can you kind of like give us a summary on where that comes from? Like what's the story?
Yeah, Secret Invasion is basically it's to put in simple terms. All right, Skrulls, from Captain Marvel, the shapeshifters.
Mhm.
It was basically this whole story arc of like how they came to Earth and they were like infiltrating and they were like replacing superheroes and nobody knew what was going on, and that's essentially what it was about.
So
And
are they impersonating the superheroes?
they're impersonating, yeah, they're impersonating them.
Well, we've
And
already seen the Skrulls. Like for example, was it Spider-Man Far From Home, like where Nick
yeah,
Fury,
as Nick Fury.
if we find out, is a Skrull. But like since Miss Marvel came out and when they introduced the Skrulls into the MCU, unlike the comics where we know them clearly to be bad guys, they've sort of portrayed them as good guys in the MCU. So people were always like, okay, because we've sort of had the Secret Invasion thing on the horizon for a while, and then obviously the Skrulls being good guys and how we know the comic book version of them plays out. The question always was, well, are they going to eventually turn them? And it feels like with this trailer, we're finally starting to see maybe the Skrulls weren't the good guys after all. Like, is that? I mean, that's the impression I got. Roland, am I on the right track here? And I mean, Andrew, I don't know if you've watched the trailer. Like, are we?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to find an official summary.
I
All
mean,
right.
it looks cool. You got Nick Fury coming back to Earth for the first time. I think they've mentioned like 3 years. Mariah Hill
No,
talking to him
that's
in a bar. She's like, "You've been sending my calls to voicemail for 3 years," and he's back. Because he's been on that. At the end of that Spider-Man movie, we saw that he was on this like big Skrull spaceship. I think in orbit around Earth. And so, meanwhile, letting Skrulls handle business on Earth. And we even saw in some other Marvel projects, I forget exactly which ones, where we have seen like Skrulls infiltrating and being like taking over government roles, key roles in key agencies and stuff. So now it looks like Nick Fury's back, and the reason he's
So
back is because he believes the Skrulls are up to no good, and you see Rhodey's involved as well. And at the panel, they hinted that Armor Wars, which they officially announced, which we knew they had brought it up that it was going to be happening, but they hadn't officially scheduled it on their calendar before. So now they finally said, it's coming out. Here's a logo, because logos make everything official. Um, and then they talked about it, and they mentioned that Secret Invasion is where Secret Invasion is going to leave off. Armor Wars is going to pick up right directly from that, and that they didn't announce an exact date for when Armor Wars is going to release, but they said 2024, I believe. So to me, that says Secret Invasion is probably not coming out until later in the year of 2020, next year, 2023, and then not that long after they're going to go into Armor Wars, which will be focused on Don Cheadle and his Rhodey War Machine character. So, and obviously he's in the show. So, and they were shooting a lot of these stuff like back to back or simultaneously, because there was stories out about how Samuel Jackson was going back and forth between the sets for Secret Invasion in Atlanta and the Marvels, which were shooting around the same time. So he's going to be in that too, and Armor Wars. So Marvel obviously
so
they're good at
these are
producing, saving
series,
money.
not movies.
These are series. So Armor Wars and Secret Invasion are Disney Plus shows, and then the Marvels is going to be a movie, which they also had a panel for and they obviously had the logo, which is nothing new. We've already seen the logo for that. But yeah, these two are shows on Disney Plus.
Okay. The Disney Plus shows for Marvel do not have a good track record.
Yeah,
They've got
honestly.
some real talent in these
Oof.
though, and
Ben
Oscar Isaac.
Mendelsohn, he's
Yeah,
playing.
Oscar Isaac was a great actor. Is
Yeah.
a great actor. Um, and yet Moon Knight was not a wonderful show.
I thought it was
Um,
good until the last episode. That last episode just sort of.
I don't know. It
Yeah.
just like we saw that. We've seen the talent that they've brought on for She-Hulk. You know, I would
There's Olivia
caution
Colman,
I
Oscar
would
winner.
caution actors from like agreeing to do these things at this point, because is that Is that Olivia Colman?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Multi-time Academy Award winning Olivia Colman. Yeah.
I mean, you had better show these actors some respect, Disney, and come out with a good product, because these are starting to become risky properties to be part of unless it's a theatrically released Marvel movie.
Yeah,
And even
Emilia
some of
Clarke's
those
in
aren't
this
doing
too.
so wonderfully.
Yeah. Emilia
Also,
Clarke.
just
and-
a side note, was I calling it the Secret War or Secret Invasion?
It's Secret Invasion. Secret Wars is the Avengers movie,
Yeah.
Phase 6. This is Phase 5.
What's the big
Okay.
secret?
Well,
So Secret
War is a
Invasion's the
totally
Skrulls.
different thing. And I was freaking myself out. I didn't know if I was saying if I was talking like if I said Secret Invasion. I was in my mind I was talking about Secret Invasion, but I didn't know if I said
Oh, I
Invasion.
think you said okay. No, you said
You're
Secret.
good.
I'm pretty sure
I
no,
think
we're
it's
not.
clear.
Yes. Secret Wars and Secret Invasion are two different things, which
I know
in and
that's
of
why I'm
itself
trying to
could be
like
confusing. Yes.
I'm freaking myself out because I know the internet will attack me and be like, "Hey, Secret War is a different thing." I'm like, I know. Please don't yell at me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Hey,
look,
hey,
Andrew, to kind
internet,
of address
take it
your
easy on
point.
Roland.
So, yeah. I was just gonna say, Andrew, the point you were trying to make, like, I think these actors are doing these roles, like Ethan Hawke, literally months after he said, "I don't think I want to do these Marvel things. I don't, those are not creatively satisfying." Or even more recently, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, like, said, like, "Oh, he basically talked down DC movies and Marvel movies, and they're not like, I think he said something like, they're not like works of art or something to that effect." He didn't say exactly that, but basically he
he
said,
likened it to being like candy. You got to
yes,
do
Yeah.
this.
exactly. Yeah, even though he is in the new Aquaman movie and he's like
Yeah.
going to be the main like villain of that.
Well, that's the thing. He says, "Listen, if you want to do the great stuff, you have to do silly things like this."
Exactly.
And you know what? That's the game. You got to make some money. You got to pander a little bit so that you can do something great. Fine, it's a business. It's a business for the actors. It's a business for the studios, and really, as customers, as responsible customers and consumers, it's our job to tell them, like, this is good, this is bad. What's difficult about streaming and all that is that, like, they get to fudge the numbers a lot more because they don't have to be transparent about how many people are watching what they're promoting, but they just always have this endless supply of stuff coming out. And box office numbers, as we've seen, those can be a giveaway in terms of how good the movie actually is and whether or not people actually like it. If it never hits the box office, you never have to disclose how much money you made or lost with it.
I mean, I think that nowadays they have to do more of that. I mean, especially once you introduce advertising. Like, I think Disney recently announced they're going to be adding an ad tier to their subscription, like Disney Plus. I think you're going to have to then start disclosing these numbers, because if you're making money off advertising, then that probably ties into actor contracts and like back end deals and
Yeah.
points and stuff and
But
royalties.
even that,
and,
doesn't that also indicate that they're not making enough money on the subscriptions alone, and that not a lot of people are watching?
That's always going to be a limitation. I think streaming services know, like, once you hit market saturation, there's no room for growth there. You got to find other ways to do that. And with Disney, a company like Disney, you have merchandising, theme parks, and all that stuff. And like you have Avengers Campus, and at the, there was a Disney World, I think it is, or Disney, the one in California. But
California
I think
Adventure.
in addition to that, now you're
Disneyland.
starting to see things like Netflix charging for sharing passwords with people who don't live in your house, adding extra cost for that, adding an ad-supported tier, and in a way it could work in their favor, because then you have situations where a show that's not drawing subscribers anymore has no value for you if the only way you're making money off the service is through new subscriptions. But if you have ads playing on there,
between ads and charging for sharing passwords, which were the two perks to Netflix for the longest time. No ads, you can share a password. And the content isn't good enough for people to stay when you get rid of all of those perks. And so I think they'll do more to alienate people than, to build more.
I mean, it's a trade-off. I do think if they make it cheap enough, there will be a lot of people who will sign up simply because they want to save money and they don't care about ads. But that aside, I do want to, before we finish talking about Marvel at D23, touch upon what happened, or the lack thereof, what didn't happen at at D23, which is they announced a director officially for Fantastic Four, which we basically already knew because the reports had been out that Matt Shakman was going to be directing the movie. But what they did not announce is the cast of Fantastic Four, which was heavily rumored that they were going to announce it, and people were even putting out like, oh, Henry Cavill is going to be in it, or Jodie Comer is going to be in it, or what was the guy, Penn Badgley is going to be Mr. Fantastic, and so on and so forth. But
Yeah.
they basically said Matt Shakman's the new director, got nothing more to say about the movie, moving on to the next thing. Like, and that's the big news. That's like the thing of all the things they announced. The Twitter is most concerned about what they didn't announce, and that's the cast of
Have
the
they
movie.
started filming? Is that all under wraps, or
No.
is it just
I don't think
that they've
so.
announced the
No,
director?
they're in pre-production.
It's still
And
pre-production.
from
They
my
must
perspective,
still be deciding.
it's honestly, it makes sense that this is the case, because if you look at the timeline of events, Matt Shakman dropped out of Star Trek 4 recently to basically sign on to this movie, which means that if the director hadn't been on the movie up until recently, maybe he was in talks to sign on, but he wasn't on the project officially. The director usually has a role to play in the casting process. I mean, Marvel is a machine. These guys will probably be in other projects that the other directors will be involved in. So you could technically cast people before the director signs on, but generally speaking, how movies work is you have the director come in, and then the director works to help cast the movie, if not make the main decisions and get the veto power on it. So I'd imagine that's probably one reason why they haven't picked out a cast yet, because they might even have a short list of options, but until the director is on board and now he or she's looking at how this movie is going to play out, and then they can make a decision based on that vision who to best cast for the role. So I think that probably is the explanation as to why they didn't announce the cast, even if they have a short list of people, and maybe those are the people we have heard rumors are, but they aren't set in stone. But for you guys, I mean, is this like, do you think that is the reason, or do you think there's something else behind why they didn't announce it? They did mention that Kevin Feige said they're going to have the movie featured at next year's D23. Do you think it's a matter of either it's what I just said, or it's a matter of they're saving something for next year so next year doesn't feel so bare?
They're probably saving for the hype, and if not that, then I imagine they're still negotiating and still market testing certain things. Yeah, I think as long as the fans still think they have some control over who gets cast, they're gonna, they still want people debating about who would be the best Mr. Fantastic. So that's my feeling on it.
Dan, I think I agree with you. I think it hasn't been casted yet. I think they have plenty of time to work on this. So I think it's just they're still in talks and negotiation. And I'm excited. This guy, he did all of WandaVision. I enjoyed that show. So we'll see what he does with it.
Yeah. I mean, and his TV credits outside of what he's done for Marvel are extensive too. I think he did Game of Thrones. He's done a ton of other cable and streaming shows as well. He's got an
40
extensive
episodes of It's Always Sunny.
credits.
Really?
Yeah. So he's got some comedy background. He's done this and that. A fun fact, he was also a child star. He was in this like sitcom in like the late 80s called it's like The 10 of Us or something. Yeah.
Did not know that.
So he's been a while. He's been here.
Well, maybe that's how we move on to the next thing about.
Before we finish up, just one last thing. I mean, they had other stuff like Quantumania, which they said will tie directly into the Kang Dynasty, I think. Yeah, the Kang Dynasty. They had New World Order.
Yeah.
The Captain America movie, they brought that out, and they announced that Danny Ramirez is going to be the new Falcon. Loki guys came in. They apparently flew right back out to continue shooting the season 2, but they were there. They had the Marvels cast come out, and Wakanda Forever was, I think, the first thing that went up. Daredevil, they brought up Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, which was fun seeing those two guys out there. They also had the Echo team come out and talk about what they were doing in Ironheart, which they will, Ironheart, they're gonna have the character Riri Williams is going to be in Wakanda Forever. That's where they're gonna introduce the character, like kind of backdoor pilot it. But the other big thing that I wanted to quickly touch upon, we don't have to spend too much time about this, but they announced like the roster for the Thunderbolts movie. So I have a feeling they're like almost like Dark Avengers in a manner of speaking. So they're not gonna have an Avengers movie until 25? So, but this movie is gonna come out, I believe, in 2024. It's starting to film next year. So they announced that the new version of Black Widow, Yelena Belova is in there, Red Guardian. You got Ghost on the left, I believe, Taskmaster on the back right, U.S. Agent, the Walker character. You've got the Winter Soldier in there, Sebastian Stan, and then Julia Louis-Dreyfus is going to be like their Nick Fury in the back left there. So
Well, I wouldn't say Dark Avengers because this Thunderbolts was always like a Suicide Squad thing.
right.
But
You're right. Fair enough, yeah.
Instead of they have Bucky in there, but in the comics it was always Hawkeye. And they changed that out, but it's pretty much just like
it makes sense. I mean, considering what the MCU's headed, I think it makes sense to make that switch at this point. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks interesting. I mean, it doesn't tell us anything about the story, but I can't wait to see David Harbour back as Red Guardian. I think he was probably the best part, in my opinion. He was the best part of the Black Widow movie, so I'm excited. And if you've seen the latest Stranger Things season, the guy slimmed out, like the dad bod is gone, like it's like they used that whole Russia storyline simply to like explain how he's in such good shape now. But anyway, he's back as Red Guardian in this. So okay, well, I just wanted to if you guys had anything to say about that. It seems like there's not a whole lot to go on so far, other than the concept art they show. So.
Yeah, I mean that's what this event is. It's concept art, logos, and
trailers, a couple of
cast teases.
Yeah,
they showed a lot of exclusive footage which we don't get to see. Like I think they showed some Ant-Man footage, they showed some Black Panther Wakanda Forever footage that's not public. But yeah, and I mean they had the new like Star Wars had their own thing too, Andor trailer, Mandalorian trailer. But that's the Marvel stuff. That's I think that covers it. That's everything that they announced, and everything they didn't announce. So.
Well, tell us what you think you're most excited for. If we missed something, what's the most exciting Marvel thing coming out in the next year? If it's not Secret Wars, Secret Invasions, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm there too.
I know it gets confusing.
There's a lot. Yeah. And if you put two different words together, it'll end up being a Marvel movie in 2028. So,
Secret Invasion War.
I'm looking forward to the Secret Dynasty 2028. And,
Avengers versus X-Men. I think that's going to happen.
Any two words, test it with Disney. They'll probably greenlight it. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say about that. But in the meantime, like and subscribe. Follow us on all the things: Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Twitch, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get a podcast. We're there. We're always going to be there. Don't worry, darling. Let's move on to that talk about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That Mags and Catriona were going to tell us about, because we're on episode 3 of a highly contentious series. Some people love it. Some people are spitting it out like broccoli they didn't want to eat. Let's see what they have to say.
Stand with me. Ours was no chance meeting. Not fate.
So, look, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, episode 3. And damn, I wish they had a shorter name for all of this. The Rings of Power, episode 3. Yeah, she's slower. She's much slower to what episode 1 and 2 was. It's kind of what I wanted, but the problem with that one is that not much has happened.
Still no Rings of Power, but now we're seeing where we're going towards the Rings of Power. It's definitely felt like it's slowed down from the first 2 episodes. This episode started to feel more like some stuff from Game of Thrones, specifically like King's Landing. They go to this island.
So we have Galadriel arriving in Numenor. She's being held captive, and she's rescued by Elendil. And Elendil is such a legendary character that we all know from The Lord of the Rings, because of course Elendil is Aragorn's great ancestor, and Elendil's son is Isildur, so the very guy that essentially kickstarted all the events to the Third Age. And we got to see a little bit of nods to how Isildur character might end up, and yeah, I thought was really, really cool to see that. Seeing Galadriel interact with Elendil and stuff, and knowing that, hey, she's gonna meet Aragorn, your great ancestor, in the future. It was, I don't know, when you start thinking about the series and those characters in those terms, it does make your heart melt a bit.
Nori, she's been hiding Gandalf, if that's who he is. I suppose it is. I mean, Gandalf always said he always had a fondness for hobbits, and I guess we're seeing why, because they basically saved him. But I still feel like it's gonna, I don't know, I hope it ends up being Saruman, because I just think that'd be kind of a cool twist. But yeah, so the hobbits discover that she's been helping him, and they're like, we're gonna kick her out. Oh, but she's actually Nori is just a kid, so we're just gonna punish her family by putting their cart to the back of the line when they travel to their next little location, because they're nomadic, which is something I really enjoy with the hobbits. It's cool to see, because I think this takes place like 4,000 or so plus years before the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series. So really the only group of humanoids that is living differently is the hobbits, because they don't have their shire. They just live nomadically. Everyone else though kind of lives like, not much has changed in 4,000 years, which is kind of sad, because they have magic and stuff. You'd think like they'd be beyond us. Like, a lot has happened for us in like 200 years, even 100 years. So I don't know, it's not looking too good for this planet of people as far as progression.
Harfoots, more Harfoots. Yeah, they're all about migrating and just living and loving their lives and doing all their shenanigans, and it's pretty hardcore like rules there if you think about it. So Nori's dad broke his foot in the previous episode, and now he's like a liability, and he's scared of being left behind by his tribe. It's nuts if you think about it. You cannot even break the foot when you migrate, and I don't really care about them. I enjoy watching them being on the screen. It's kind of a weird thing, because you get a lot of those nods to Shire and the way hobbits live. We get to see, the way Harfoots live, and wake to the, the Harfoots that they left behind. I thought it was a very nice touch. It was emotional, but it was enough. I don't think it was introduced or set up enough for us in order to get emotionally involved or feel sorry. But I thought the idea was very beautiful, and I still don't know whether it's Gandalf. No one has told me. I decided not to know. I really want to be surprised by it.
So in the last couple episodes, Galadriel was shipwrecked with this guy, Halbrand. I had to look up his name. Well, I guess he's supposed to be the show's Aragorn, but he's a thief, so it doesn't really work. He kind of thieves like in a weird way. These other knights, I think they were giving him trouble, and he was just eating at a bar or something, and he's like, oh, let me buy everybody around. And the only reason he did it was so that he could steal this one guy's his emblem on his shirt. And like 2 seconds later, they know he stole it, and they follow him, the knights, and then they go to beat him up. And he's like, I don't want any trouble, please don't do this. They punch him like twice, and then he just like beats them down immediately. Like, I don't know, like they unleashed this crazy power in him, and he just destroyed them, which to me is just kind of weird, because it's like, okay, if you know that you have this uncontrollable power, like if you're attacked, you're just gonna like kill who's ever around. Like, maybe just don't steal in the first place, or don't put yourself in that position. That was a little weird.
Like Poppy and Nori, of course, we have our Sam and Frodo. I read this comparison a lot. Of course, every hero needs his or her sidekick, and yeah, am I bothered by this sort of archetype being formed again? No, not really. It's just the way films are made, and I think I've seen a lot of films and stories being like use this dynamic that I I really don't mind it. It works for the relationship. As long as Nori doesn't play some crucial character, she's not going to become a Frodo of our story, I think I'm okay. I'm okay with whatever they're up to. I don't mind them. And yes, I know they weren't even supposed to be here, and a lot of fans are very upset by Harfoots being them. But I enjoy the way they were portrayed. I enjoy the way they are sort of brought to us. Whether it's accurate to the books or appendices or not, that's a completely different story.
But I mean, I like it. I'm coming into it understanding that it is not Lord of the Rings. You can never redo Lord of the Rings. You should never try to redo Lord of the Rings. It's its own thing, and I like it for that. It's something that, at least in this episode, it felt like if you didn't know it was Lord of the Rings, you could kind of totally think it was a completely different show, which is fine because this is 4,000 years ago. It should be different. Like, the world, despite them all still kind of dressing the same, still not having figured out electricity and things like that, and, you know, cars maybe or something, like, it still makes sense that it would be as different as it is, yet similar. But, you know, I still think it's a really good show. I'm enjoying it. I think it's very well done. Even if it wasn't like a Lord of the Rings thing, it's nice to watch a very well done medieval fantasy show.
We had the elves being captive and the fight with Warg, and I thought it was very gory. I forgot to check the ratings, but the whole fight between the Warg was very graphic, and yeah, if you don't like blood, probably I would skip through that scene. We still don't know who Adar is. I'm kind of excited to see and find out all about him, because it looks like an elf, it looks like a human. Whoever he is, I'm very interested because he's leading orcs. Am I excited for episode 4? Yes, but I think I was excited more about episode 3 after having watched episode 1 and 2. Much slower, Numenor's beautiful, Nori doing her thing. It's a good episode. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Let me be really, really clear. I don't care about Don't Worry, Darling. I don't care about the movie itself. I don't care about the drama. I don't care. Why has this taken up so many headlines on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram? Everybody just seems to be talking about the drama around a movie I was not interested in seeing from the beginning. Okay? So let's just get that out of the way. I think all of this is viral marketing tactics. I think Olivia Wilde is a troll. I am not interested in this, but here we are talking about it. Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna add to that. I think at this point the PR team of that movie has taken the stance of any PR is good PR, because
Yeah.
otherwise they would have like taken her off the press tour, and because it's like every time she does an interview, she's stepping on some kind of like ticking time bomb that creates only further controversy, whether
Yeah.
intentionally or unintentionally. It just feels like, yeah, the PR team is, they're not doing damage control because they're like, this is not a Marvel movie, so whatever gets us attention. Like, because as long as people go to see it at least once, we'll make money. That's probably how
Yeah.
they're taking it.
Yeah, and I know this is the reason we were bringing this up is because this week there have been 3 or 4 separate stories about actors getting standing ovations that are longer than. Well, it started with, I think, a 6-minute standing ovation for The Whale for Brendan Fraser, and then that was
Yeah.
people were excited about that because they're like, he really deserved that. He really did something, and so that was the first one we saw.
Yeah.
Then, Don't Worry, Darling, Olivia Wilde, never to be outdone by anyone ever. She, I think, orchestrated, I'll just say that, I think orchestrated a 10-minute standing ovation. Okay, so now, the
Yeah.
movie, 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. By all accounts, it's not doing particularly well. I think part of the reason we're getting so much negative press about it is because people aren't going to see it because they're going to realize it's not very good. It's so she gets a 10-minute standing ovation, and now that has to be outdone. And so Blonde gets a debut at a festival as well. Ana de Armas gets a 16-minute standing ovation.
I think it's like 14.
14?
Let's not get crazy, Andrew. Come on.
Okay,
Let's
but
not-
still, I just saw another one yesterday. I already forgot the movie, but 4 headlines.
Yeah.
That's not, number one, that's not a news story. And number 2, the length of a standing ovation, especially when you get 4 different stories about them in the same week, is not an indication of the quality of the movie.
Yeah.
What this says to me is, like, this isn't people saying, "Oh, I love that so much." People aren't driven to do it. This is virtue signaling on like such a primal level of, I still like it. I really like it. This is important. I'm making a statement. And now the applause, in a real interesting turn of events, the audience has become the performer.
Yeah. I can see that.
Dan, you're muted.
Sorry, I do this at least once a week, so at this point it's a normal thing. But don't you think there's like the herd mentality to this, like where you're at like a festival, let's say like you go to Venice or you go to Cannes or you go to Toronto, and then like a movie like Don't Worry Darling pops up, and then once you're up and clapping, you're sort of like, are you looking around like, are you guys still going? Still going?
Yeah.
And you just feel compelled to just kind of go with it.
I personally never fall victim to that. I stop when I think it's necessary, and I go, okay, these people are being ridiculous. It's not that good.
Yeah.
Nothing has ever made me clap. My hands get tired. They start to hurt.
Exactly.
I would never clap for 15 minutes for anything. Anything.
I feel bad. Like I remember in school we had like have talent show, and like people would like have like a guitar or something. They're like clap to the beat, and like they would start it, and then we would all do it for like 10, 20, 30 seconds.
And at a certain point, it starts disrupting the performance.
After that, you can't do anything. It's too much. You can't even keep to the rhythm. Everybody's out of place, And then it's too much. There should never be anything more than a minute and a half. And even then, that's a lot. Because what are the people presenting this movie going to do? They're just kind of standing there awkwardly. There's stuff supposed to happen like right after this, but no, they're standing there for 14 minutes, whatever minutes, how long that is.
And I just have to wonder, like, what are they clapping for?
Yeah.
In Brendan Fraser's case, okay, 6 minutes, I could see that, because the guy
I could see
really,
why they would be clapping so long.
He
for
committed.
But
He committed. That's not a fat suit. He committed to that weight, and he, by what I've heard, it's such a heartfelt story.
Yeah.
And a new type of character. That's something that I think people want, that they've missed out on. It's not a superficial movie. It's not a movie that has anything to do with sex appeal. He's just like, he's playing a real person and digging deep into what this person's life is. Don't
Which
worry,
is another
darling.
thing that Brendan Fraser has been going through, because he's had a comeback. There was that whole scandal where he was blacklisted from Hollywood, and people are aware of this, and he comes back with like Doom Patrol and starts doing other projects, and this is amazing.
Do you think that's part of why people are giving the standing ovation, because they're just glad to see him back?
They're glad to see him back. That guy was killing it in like the late 90s, early 2000s. He was everywhere, and he comes back, and it's this kind of just terribly true story from this perspective that you're not really used to. And it's the character, it's the director,
And so you look at all of that. That's like legitimate reasons to encourage somebody who's been wronged, and maybe somebody who had an impact on your life because those movies meant a lot to you. And he's actually accomplished something as an actor. He's made you feel something.
Yeah. And then it's like you say with Olivia Wilde, it's got to be a one up.
Yeah,
and at this point,
her whole thing, from the first time I saw the trailer for this, I was really turned off from director Olivia Wilde. It's so clearly all about her.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. It's kind of Stepford Wivesy. It's sort of it's trying to make political points. It's trying to be super relevant, but at the same time be stylized like the 1960s. It just feels really out of touch, really, self-aggrandizing, and I can't imagine, based on the reviews and the reception so far, that was a genuine standing ovation that lasted 10 minutes.
No, there's so much drama that's coming out that's like, how is this believable? Come on.
Yeah.
Are you really? I mean, the whole Harry Styles spitting thing on Chris Pine, which is just this insane.
The epitome of clickbait.
Yeah.
Of, did he spit on him? And then the article, no.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of questionable things that are happening with this movie. And I never want to judge a movie with the trailer because, like I always say, it just depends on your marketing team how we perceive it before we actually watch it. And so when it comes out, I'll probably watch it. I'm gonna be honest. Let's be honest. We're gonna have to do a review on it.
I don't want to see it, but because I don't think it warrants any more attention than it's gotten. But on the off chance that it's really, 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 really bad, I'll take some pleasure in watching it and reviewing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the custody papers. That was a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that. I don't think that was. Well, that was maybe probably.
It's just to get people talking about her. It's all just to get people talking about her.
I just.
Oh, that's interesting. Has anybody ever been able to interview the person that served her?
I don't think so.
If you're the person who served her, we would like to interview you.
Yeah. I wonder if she was served before and then she hired somebody to go on stage and do that. Can they do that?
Well, I don't. So the
We
people
would
who
have heard
usually
about that.
serve papers, they're not obliged to tell even the person. Like Jason Sudeikis, I'm pretty sure was not aware when the papers would be served. It's not his prerogative to decide when that happens. It's the, I forget, like, is it the legal team or whoever does the work. And I'm pretty sure they would easily just be like, yeah, we're not talking to the press. Like there's, they're not celebrity or public figures. So there's no obligation for them to make a statement on any part.
I just want to add fuel to the fire. I think I'm going to say it, hot take. I think it was stunted. I think
no question.
Got served and
no question.
Hired somebody to give it to her because that's such a insane place, to go through that length of just somebody working from the government to.
I don't know if they hired the person to do it that way, but I think the idea of being served, on stage, where most people don't even know that she's trying to direct at this point. Yeah. They've seen her in some movies, and that's regardless of how they went about it. Yeah, it's a stunt. It's just to get people talking about it.
She had a good movie. What was the other movie that she did? She had another film before this that was really well received, and I think that's really the reason how she got this project and the cast that she was able to pull for this. But
she directed?
She directed, yes. That was her directorial debut. But I mean, with all the stuff that's happening, really, whether it's Booksmart, right? Whether it's her relationship with Harry Styles, whether it's the whole did he spit on Chris Pine at the thing, and whether she fired Shia LaBeouf or he quit, and other people in this movie like Gemma Chan basically getting completely overshadowed because of the whole Florence Pugh. I mean, Florence Pugh is the lead here, but whatever supposed beef she might have with Olivia Wilde, it is. I mean, I don't know how well this is gonna reflect on her career and how well this is gonna reflect on even somebody like Harry Styles, who's trying to get serious consideration as an actor. He's so far always done supporting roles, and he's a lead in this movie. And 50 reviews in on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 42% rating. We talked about this. It's 10-minute standing ovation for a movie that's sitting with that number after just 50 reviews. That percentage number will go down. It usually doesn't go up. It's not like you add 150 and all of a sudden it's going to be 98. This is not looking good. And
yeah.
To that end, I mean, like you said, the myth of festival standing ovations, like, whether it's the Woman King at Toronto, or whether it's the Blonde, or the Whale. It's not. I'm not saying it uniformly is a bad indicator. I mean, Top Gun Maverick had a fantastic premiere at Cannes earlier this year. They even gave an honorary Palme d'Or to Tom Cruise, and that movie became the biggest movie of the year and the highest rated movie of the year. And obviously,
It's
The
just
Whale
it's
looks like a good film.
conspicuous to
but-
me that there would be multiple stories this week. And is that just because the festivals happened this week?
But
and
don't you guys think
festival goers like to do standing ovations?
to me, that's so this is the thing, right? I feel like there's a lot of movies that probably get standing ovations, a lot of indies that people don't hear about, but the ones that you get a people.com or Entertainment Weekly or Deadline or Variety and Hollywood Reporter writing articles about are the ones where the marketing and PR teams are like orchestrating like a whole campaign to like have these prestigious festival launches for their movies and use it as a means to like either make a play at prestige and Oscars buzz and try to drive box office. I think nowadays these kind of festival circuit runs, or not circuit runs, but festival runs for these big movies are primarily used as a means to market them, where a movie like a Marvel movie doesn't need to do that because they already know people are going to show up to watch. These kind of movies need maybe oh, it did so well at that Venice Film Festival, I should go check it out. They clapped for it for 10 minutes. It can't be that bad. Whereas Marvel movie, you're like, it's a Marvel movie about Iron Man's back? Yeah, sure. Hell, I'm gonna go watch it. Like, of course. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think people should look at these articles and think like, oh, that's a reflection of the quality of the film. They should look at it and say, oh, there's a marketing team behind this really pushing the movie and giving us more reasons to watch. But I should still probably make my own opinion and maybe like read a review or two from somebody I trust, because that's probably going to give you a better reflection of what you might think about it ultimately. Yeah, that's my opinion at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Tell us what you think. Would you clap for anything for 15 minutes in your life?
wouldn't.
I know I wouldn't.
I find it hard to stand up for like the Pledge of Allegiance in school, like when they used to do it, like please stand up. I'm like it's
I
like,
always stand.
I personally
National
never kind of
anthem,
took to that
hand
whole
over
thing,
heart.
whether it's the national anthem or anything like that. But this feels like one of those things where I'm like, if everybody else around me standing up, you kind of feel weird just sitting there. Or once you stand
Yeah.
up, the herd mentality of
No,
we're still
the
doing this?
clapping.
Yeah.
The clapping is
yeah.
because that's just.
I'd probably still stand up, but I would stop clapping. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'd
gonna
stand up
I
to
was
like try and leave. I don't even like being around applause. It's
It's like,
jarring.
can you imagine? It would almost be like way worse if you did that and you were like in the minority, like you're the only one who got up and started clapping. Like, oh, nobody else. Oh, okay, should probably sit
Well,
back
that's
down.
isn't that how it should be?
It should,
Isn't that how it really should be?
maybe that's how it starts, and then everybody else feels compelled. Especially if it's like, can you imagine if Olivia Wilde was the first one to stand up and be like clapping Florence
She
Pugh, and
probably
then
was.
everybody
She
else
was probably
feels
wearing a
compelled
false
to.
mustache and walked into the audience. It was like, really good. She's a great director.
Speculating,
Yeah, I
obviously. I don't know if that's
should
what
be like-
happened, but
It should be like a rap battle, like once it's done, then they can, the audience can go as loud as they want to really tell how much they like it, and then boom, that's it. That you're done. Maybe it makes groundbreaking screams and stuff like that, and that's the headline.
Yeah, but I
And
can
after
just
they
I just
go
have this image in my mind of Olivia Wilde's like press agent being like going around from like people like just so you know, guys, we're gonna try and beat the last standing ovation, so just make sure people around you just keep clapping. We're gonna try and go for 10 minutes, okay? And like just keep it. I could just see that happening. So
I don't think that's
That's
too
just-
far from the truth, honestly. Whether it's specific to this movie or not, I can so see that happening. I've grown to be more cynical about this kind of thing with Hollywood. It's like the awards circuits and festival
Yeah.
circuits.
here's an
It's just the whole
idea.
patting ourselves on the
Put
back.
all this effort into making the story good, and then maybe I'll clap for it.
Yeah, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. If the movie is good, you will get good word of mouth and you will get more money for that. You don't have to worry, like, a movie like this, it seemingly at least is not good, and you're trying so hard to get people there. But if the word of mouth is not good, even if the opening weekend is good, it's not going to sustain itself over weeks and weeks,
Yeah.
like Top Gun Maverick or Everything Everywhere All at Once did, or The Batman did. Like, those movies are good movies. Like, make a good movie first and then worry about the rest later.
Well, I think to put a cap on this, and even the Disney stuff, is like, I think now society has become aware that nothing gets made unless the marketing is really good. And now we've done so much marketing that it's starting to be transparent, and the quality isn't matching up to the effort being put into the marketing. And so maybe, hopeful optimist in me, maybe this means that we're going to become impervious to these silly stunts, and quality movies might just come back. But this is absurd, and it needs to stop.
I'd love to see the Deadpool kind of marketing campaign for a movie like this. They did the first one was one of the best marketing campaigns for a movie ever, honestly.
Well, okay. Like and subscribe, share, do all the things that a good internet viewer does. Be one of our friends, be part of our movie fan community. We're talking about all the new shows, all the new movies, pretty much everything that's happening right now that, is worth talking about. Is that it? Is that the show? No, we got plenty more coming on.
By the way, I love how you said like a good internet viewer does, like you're tapping.
Yeah, good boy, good girl. You're doing a great job. We love you. So yeah, up next. Oh, that's right. We got some Rolan Underground stuff. Rolan the birthday special. This one is personal. Let's take a look.
Oh, my light's off. Dang it. Hi, welcome to Rolan Underground, where we talk about what's happening in the world above while in my grandparents' basements. I'm your host, the birthday boy. Hi, guys. So it's my birthday. As you can tell, I got the basic balloons and everything. You can't really see them. Anywho, so yeah, it was good. It's not really my birthday anymore. It's past. I'm gonna tell you what zodiac sign I am. If you were a true fan, you would know when my birthday was. But it was great. It was a good birthday. It was a great birthday. I got a lot of things, including a new camera. I really hope that matched up in the edit. I hope it did. It probably didn't. Let's continue. Anywho. So yeah, it's my birthday. I want to talk a little bit about birthdays. Why do we celebrate them? Why are people so mean to leap year babies? What do you do during the birthday song and when they're singing it to you? These are questions we might get into this week. I don't know. Don't rush me.
Not so long ago, in the mysterious land of Hickory, North Carolina, Rolan was celebrating his birthday.
So, you've been out of high school for like 13 years.
I'm 22. 22.
Over 21.
22.
So my birthday this year was pretty chill. It was very nice. Hung out with my girlfriend. We did the free day thing, like where you go all around town, see where you can get free stuff or places. Here's a list. What this list doesn't tell you is that pretty much every place you need the app. You need the app. Bro, just look at my license. Look at this. I'm a customer. I was gonna buy some other stuff here, but I'm not anymore. What's going on? Now I look like an idiot. I'm wasting your time. You're wasting my time. I hate it. It was the worst. We went to like maybe Dale, 3 places, and it was garbage. I actually asked my family not to do the birthday song because it was stressing me out. I never know what to do. It's ridiculous. What do? You just sit there. Do you smile? Do you clap? Is clapping can you sing to your own birthday song? Be honest, can you sing to your own birthday? Has anybody done? Please let me know if anybody's ever done this, because that sounds like a baller move. I just went for cookies. I'm not even that big fan of a cake, honestly. A cake is too rich for me. I can't do that. You know, it's too much. A birthday, it's stressful. You know, really. You know, when you get to a certain age, it's just like, oh, I'm turning 1 year older, but it's not even that. Really, if you think about it, it's just stress. You're popular for once. Has anybody ever noticed that? You're like, your phone is just blowing up. It's like, happy birthday, happy birthday. You get phone calls from family members, and you're like, oh, hi, thank you. Yes. I mean, it's nice. It's appreciated, but it's just like weird, because it's like, then you get salty when people don't wish you a happy birthday. You have this ego start going in your head. You know, it's terrible. This is a true story. This is literally what happened on my birthday. I was waiting for a couple people to wish me a happy birthday, and they didn't for the longest time. One waited until like 10 or so o'clock, and you know, it's like, what can you do? Because you want to like snap them, you want to send them a text, but it's like, oh, I can't, because then they're gonna be like, oh gosh, yeah, happy birthday, by the way. You know, you want them to come to the thought of their own, like, oh yeah, it's Roland's birthday, maybe I should wish him a happy birthday. And my girlfriend was like, should I text them? I was like, no, don't text them, because it's weird, because it's also a childish thing of like, why don't you wish me a happy birthday? You know, it's weird. I really wanted her to go behind my back and just like text them, you know, just like, hey, you should text Roland happy birthday. I don't know. That's the thing, you know, your ego just goes through the roof. See, I was gonna say the beginning of the year babies, they should feel lucky, but at the same time, they shouldn't. But let me say why I think they're kind of lucky. If they're like January babies, they can just make a list of who didn't wish them a happy birthday and who did. And whoever did, you know, you can wish them a happy birthday, and whoever didn't, they can, you know, whatever. I know for a fact that I told one of my friends happy birthday. I didn't remember if I got him a gift. I was pretty sure I got him a gift, but I guess I didn't. I don't know. I have a terrible memory. But apparently he was salty because he didn't say happy birthday. I was so upset. This is a really close friend of mine. He texted me at like 12:11, something along that, like a.m. And he was like, oh, happy birthday, by the way. And I just responded with, too late. And I haven't talked to him. It's very petty. Just because I'm turning a year older doesn't mean I'm becoming mature. Age is irrelevant. But I do feel bad for, you know, beginning of the year, like January babies, or really any winter babies, especially like December babies, because a lot of times, you know, their parents are just going to merge Christmas and their birthday together. It's ridiculous if they didn't. I don't know why they don't just like make a fake birthday. You know, like they make a birthday in the summertime, so it's like evenly matched. You have your birthday, and then 6 months after you get Christmas, and then 6 months you have your birthday. You know, make it even. But no, those poor things, and then they expect us to get 2 gifts within a month? Are you crazy? No, I'm not doing that. I don't have money to be spending like that. That's crazy. I just spent all my money on my other friends and family's Christmas gifts. It's insane. I don't want to do that, you know? And by the way, speaking of babies who have terrible birthday, leap year babies. Those poor things. Oh my gosh. Everybody's so mean to leap year babies, and I'm not here for it. I'm sick of it. You know what? Leap year babies, stand up for yourself. The next time somebody does a stupid joke, as in like, oh my gosh, you're not turning 16, you're turning 4 because of leap year. Screw you. You're a terrible person. You're horrible. You're truly. Oh my gosh, I don't know why this enrages me like it does, but I think it's stupid. I think it's a dumb joke. It's like, oh, it didn't make the day, so I guess it doesn't count. I don't agree with that. That's ridiculous. Be nice to them. You know, I saw like this guy who like, he finally turns like 64, but they're like, the sweet 16 of this man, or like something stupid. Let the man be. He's 64. He can almost earn a retirement check. Let the man be. He's heard the joke his entire life. You know? I'm tired. We're gonna move on. You know what's crazy? I don't even know anybody who has a leap year birthday. My parents have a leap year anniversary. People still do dumb jokes. I don't know. Birthdays are like Christmas now. You know, it's like you wake up and you thought you'd be excited, but it's like, oh, this feels kind of like a regular day. I guess it's still special, but I don't know. Birthdays, they've always been weird to me. I've always had like weird. I've always tried to do something special for birthdays. I like planning things. I like planning parties. I planned a roast one time. That went terrible. There were some really good jokes, but like we were just like we were out of it. You know, like we were just tired and like it wasn't. And you have to plan. You really have to plan a roast. And if somebody's a slacker, you know, then their jokes aren't going to be as good. And then there's always like somebody that's like super sensitive and it's like, oh, I don't want to be included. But then they'll chime in on the whole roast. It's like, no, you said you weren't going to do this, so you can't. No. If you don't want to be included, then you're not included. You can't say, oh, nobody can make fun of me, but you can be on the sidelines and heckle. No, I don't agree with it. It's too much. I'm going too much. I apologize. But a roast is fun. I don't really recommend it. I do recommend like getting out of town. You know, like go to an escape room or rock climb or something along those lines. Just do something. You know what else is just like kind of pointless? It's just like those birthday shirts. You know, it's like, oh, today's my birthday. You know, like you have whole article of clothes. You can really only wear that once a year. You know, you really can't do that. Or like, oh, I'm turning 22 today. You can wear that once in your life. Once in your life you can wear it. It's such a waste of money. It's ridiculous. I've seen that. Let's wrap this up. I'm getting a little too crazy. I'm like rambling. I just want to thank everybody who wished me a happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate it. To those who didn't, it's fine. I was, I guess, a little offended, but it's like whatever. You know, I'm a grown person. It's whatever. So shout out to all my Gemini homies and have a good birthday, y'all.
Next week we have a choice of things to watch. I've heard See How They Run is supposed to be really good.
It looks good.
The Woman King trailer, not super compelling to me. Maybe I'll see that. However, for me, it's the Clerks 3 for me, dog. That's what I'm gonna do. I like Clerks. I loved Clerks 2. I don't know what the last 5 years, or I guess, how long has it been since Clerks 2? 10 years maybe? Maybe more.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a lot more than 5 years.
Yeah, a lot's changed in the world. 15 years since Clerks 2 came out?
Came out in 2006.
I'm so old. I loved it when it came out. I hope
Well,
that
their poster says they're too old for this shift. So
it's true. I'm looking forward to see what happens and how the voice has changed at all, if it's consistent with the other movies. But those have always been so much fun because they are anti-Hollywood movies. They're just the opposite of everything that would happen. The first one was so low budget and so weird, it became a cult classic. And I think that ended up being what funded the rest of his endeavors and made Kevin Smith who he is. Kevin Smith? Yeah. Okay. Blank for a second. Quick stroke right here. But, you know, it's a distinct comedic voice that I am looking forward to hearing again. What is See How They Run? How is it different than Knives Out, and why should I care?
Well, it's 50s first off. And it's also in London, and if I'm not mistaken, Sam Rockwell and
Saoirse Ronan, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. She's like explained it so many times in interviews, and I always feel so bad because I always like type it or I'm like looking at it, but I never like listen to those interviews. But I think they're both doing like British accents, and they're just it's like you said, it's going to be kind of like a Knives Out feeling, you know. It's a little mystery going on that they're trying to solve. And I like both of those actors, and they do really well with the comedy, so we'll see how it goes.
It's funny, you know, to get more of these stylized period pieces, you know, like that. I feel like, you know, we've talked about this so many times, but like the escapism thing into other time periods and like super heavy stylized stuff, it's a reflection of our desire to not exist in this time.
Yeah.
I would really like to see, I don't know, maybe the state of the world needs to just change for us to be like, let's have a movie that takes place now where it's fun. And it's
Hey,
hard
Top
to
Gun
do
Maverick took place now.
that. Top Gun Maverick
And it's fun.
did it, and that's
Just
the
saying.
thing is like Top Gun they were able to keep everything pretty self-contained. But it's weird because it didn't comment on anything actually going on, and it didn't,
I'm okay with
you
that.
know, yeah, no, it wasn't like a political movie, which was pretty neat. But it was like it took place. It was sort of a, you know, in a bottle. You know, it's
It's
town.
a timeless movie. You can like watch that movie 20 years from now and it will still hit you in mostly the same ways. Some of the technology will probably seem outdated and you can recognize the time it was made in based on like the fighter jets they're flying or the carriers they're on and stuff. But other than that, it's pretty, the story was timeless. Like Everything Everywhere
Yeah.
All at Once was pretty
Yeah.
timeless.
No, that's all this. But in terms of just the world and how we're observing ourselves, it's like we could stand to have a bit more fun and to see that reflected in the movies.
But not too
Maybe
much
that's
fun,
part of.
like She-Hulk does sometimes. I don't know.
I wouldn't say that.
Or maybe that's not the
happening
right
here.
kind of fun. It's
On the topic
Never mind.
of
Forget that I
escapism
broached
and
that.
She-Hulks, tell me, do you know about the Woman King? Like, what's that all about?
So, I mean, the Woman King. It's I'm pretty sure this is based on. It's based on it's based on like a real story of a kingdom in Africa where the Woman King ruled. I forget what's her name. I mean, Viola Davis is playing the lead. She is the Woman King. You've also got Joan Boyega in there. I think Lashana Lynch is in there. They've got a heavy hitter a cast. It's a movie that's basically, I think, a war movie where it's like European colonizers are coming over and to colonize their nation or their kingdom. And I think the idea is that they're gonna defend the king. I think it's the kingdom of Dahomey, which was historically one of the most powerful states of Africa in the 18th and 19th centuries. So this is, like I said, loosely at least based on real life events. So, and the trailers say as much. I think show as much that it's like they're defend. And then if you watch, it gets pretty brutal. I think this is rated R, as far as I'm aware. And it's been getting some good feedback at Toronto Film Festival. So they didn't go to Venice. I think they went to Toronto. So yeah.
Well, that's sort of the choices you have. It's, are you gonna see the low budget indie comedy? Are you gonna go see the heavily stylized murder mystery from the 1950s? Or are you gonna go see a let's call it an Afro-feminist war feature? What do you like? What's your choice? For me, probably Clerks this week. If I feel real silly and I want to see how they run as well, maybe I'll do that. And if I'm really nuts, I'll go and I'll see all three, and I'll tell you how I feel about every single one of them. What are you looking at, Roland? What do you want to go see?
I was a big fan of Hail Caesar, and I'm getting that vibe from See How They Run. So I think I'm just gonna straight shoot it. I think I'm gonna see how they run.
See how they run.
And then
Dan?
Clerks 3 isn't playing anywhere I
Really?
live, so I can't. Yeah.
It's a limited release, I think. It's just much
I'm
lower
gonna seek it
budget
out.
and
Yeah.
more of
Seek
an
it out.
indie. I am also actually leaning towards See How They Run. I for a while I wanted to go see The Woman King first, but I'm gonna probably wait to see what other people say about it before I go see it, because I think it will be it would be tougher maybe to sit through. Like, not in the sense that I'm saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying it's the kind of movie that it will maybe take more of an emotional toll, whereas See How They Run, much like Knives Out, just feels like you're going to go and have a fun time at the movies. So
Yeah.
that's why I want to try that first, because I think there's more of a risk-free proposition. And then if The Woman King is getting good reviews and good feedback from audiences as well as, critics, then I'll probably go check that out afterward.
Yeah, I'm just generally not a war guy in terms of movies. I don't enjoy war movies unless it's
I like war movies.
high
but-
concept, like
yeah.
how everything played out geopolitically. I have no patience, and I would make a horrible soldier. But it's like I don't find war movies entertaining in that way.
Yeah.
It's like
So there's
Saving
that.
Private Ryan. I've seen it multiple
Hate it.
times, but I can probably only sit through and watch it once a year at most, because it's hard to like the first 30 minutes alone of that movie
Yeah.
like drain you. So it's
Yeah.
or like Schindler's List is even worse. It's like there's less violence, but it's a heavy watch. Like
I like Schindler's List more than Saving Private Ryan. hate
I don't know
all-star
where I would
casts.
rank the two comparatively, relative to each other, but still, like regardless, I think like I can't, like I said, I can't watch those movies. Schindler's List I can probably maybe not even watch once a year. That's probably more like once every other or once every 3 years, because it's like
That's
You're
the
being generous
psychological.
because
rewatch.
Yeah. It does its job, but it does it so well that I'm like, I don't want to go into that mindset more than maybe once every few years.
Any
Understandable.
Hacksaw Ridge fans?
Never seen it.
Never seen it, but I've heard.
Liked it.
Didn't Andrew Garfield, like, I think he got nominated or did he win?
Yeah.
For,
It's like it's a cute. It's
Yeah.
like, well, cute is
An
probably not
Oscar.
the best word, but it's like
Yeah.
it's hopeful. It's about a good guy, and he's trying to lead a good Christian life and not
Yeah.
kill anybody in World War II.
It's sort of
So,
like it's sort of like Forrest Gump when he was in Vietnam, except like everything that happens after the movie is not.
That's a great one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
You can watch
Well-
Forrest Gump, I think, like several times a year, and it's an easy watch.
All right, we're
Or you
getting
could watch
distracted.
Lao Sing Chada.
Okay.
But tell us what you're going to go see and what you want to get reviews for, because this is a two-way street. We don't, we're making the content for you to watch, for you to enjoy, and for you to be part of the discussion. So join our movie fan community, be part of the conversation, because at the end of the day, movies are for people. We're people. We're talking about them, and we would like them to be better. And that
What
starts
movie
with the
would you like for us
conversation.
to review? I guess that's
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
Yeah, why don't you
Yeah.
tell us? Why don't you tell us that? And thank you for watching. We'll be back next week and throughout the week on all the different platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and more. We'll see you next week. Have a good time. Bye.